going on, guys? Junior's Fishing Company with making a hard bait today. No, I'm kidding. But this is a Rapala. Let's see, I've got a couple sitting right here. This is a Rapala Husky jerk. I don't know what color this actually is. Maybe it says this is Pink Tiger UV. You can hear those rattles in there. What this video is going to be today is I really don't need this sitting here. You can kind of see it's pink, yellow, white belly. But I'm going to be dressing these trebles. This is something that I've never made a video on, but it is something that I have done. It was one of the first things I ever did when I started tying, and that was just dressing up. Really, it was musky trebles that I started kind of dressing up, just because I liked to have some of that hook covered in whatever I ended up dressing them in. And I haven't done one of these. I really like, especially on Rapalas and things like that, a suspending jerkbait, to have at least the back treble dressed with feathers or whatever you decide to put on it. And I can kind of go into a little more detail about what I prefer to put on here and what I really, really don't. The only thing that's tough about doing this is you're wrapping around 3 points. And so it's weird. Treble hook has 3 points. But you just really want to be careful. These are sharp hooks, and I never really wrap past where the hook points are, just because you're going to end up cutting your thread and it just gets really frustrating. You've got plenty of room to tie all the stuff you want up by closer to the eye. I've got 280 denier on. You could use 70 on this. I didn't feel like switching my spool, and so you're stuck watching me tie with 280 denier. But I like to keep it super, super simple. A lot of baits that you buy are going to have pretty much this material on it, and it is saddle hackle feather tips. And you just have to pick the super short. You can pick the little 3-inch feathers and get great little tips out of them. So what I'm going to do is I've got 3 pink and 3 white. This is going to be the back treble. So I'm going to do 2 pink on this, and then I'll do 2 white and 1 pink on the other one. And really, it's a really straightforward tie. This is about as simple as it gets. I'm just going to put this right on the top of this treble with 1 light wrap. You don't have to be this picky. You really just have to decide how much you want sitting off the hook. You could do a shank length, which, every fly tyer, when they're tying a nymph or whatever, does 1 hook shank length or whatever. You could do longer. You could put a 10-inch saddle feather on this, but I really just kind of eyeball it because I really don't care much. I would rather have it be a little bit short than a little bit long. But again, if the fish is going to hit this, the hook's in its mouth, so you really don't have to be too weary about how much is sticking off. One thing I wouldn't put on these trebles, I've never even really done it, so I can't tell you that it's a proven fact, but like marabou, I wouldn't really put marabou on something like this because this is a suspending bait. And in my opinion, if you have a suspending bait and you put something like marabou that's going to absorb a ton of water, you might affect the action. I'm just going to make sure that those are the same length. You might affect the action. If you put a bunch of marabou on it and it's going to want to sink when it absorbs all that water, you might have that bait sink, which isn't necessarily the end of the world, especially if it sinks nice and slow. But yeah, there are just some things I wouldn't necessarily put on there. I know I've kind of bulked up this a little bit, but I don't mind that. And I'll just grab a whip finish. Again, if you, like a lot of people, growing up, I pretty much primarily used Rapalas. So I have a ton that are sitting around. You can dress up 20 of your favorite Rapalas in a very short amount of time. I'm going to put a little bit of head cement on here. Not a ton, just a little bit, just to get some durability, some good durability. And then one thing you can do, and I'll do just for the video's sake, is once I get this, I don't want to spill it, you can grab some bone dry, or really Loon makes a pretty decent UV resin. This is Solarez thin hard. You could do medium, thick. You can, something like this, you really don't have to worry a ton about what kind of UV resin you're using. I'm just going to put that on there, and I'm just going to kind of mush this around, and I've got a little bit of a black dot on there I want to get off. But I'll just kind of move this around evenly, and then I'll just zap that. And again, these might be a little bit longer. Maybe you've tied a bunch of these before. Dressing trebles is very old. I'm not the first person to ever do this, but I really, really like, especially again on the tails of my baits, that little kick that you get when you jerk that jerk bait and it moves, and this back treble now is a part of the bait. You're not, it even hides the hook a little more for those fish that you think are probably smarter. You're giving them more credit than they may deserve. But, so on this front one, I'm just gonna tighten up my vise. I'll grab my thread and I'll just dress this one. I know this might be a little bit of overkill for those people that are watching this. You're like, I know how to do this. But I'll just show you the finished bait. So I'm gonna get this kind of pushed back, and I can kind of squeeze the tip of my bobbin in between all these hook points. Again, you just want to be careful, because these trebles will tear apart your thread pretty quick. So now I've just got one pink here. Again, I'm just trying to match the bait. That's really all I'm trying to do. You could put you could put purple feathers if it's an all white bait. You could keep it white. You could put red. I know red is a really popular one. I'm going to do a short when this video uploads. I've been doing some shorts. I'm going to do this. I already took the hook off. This is going to be red. I know red is a really, really popular one to dress your trebles with. This is the same kind of feather that I think most, if you stop by like a bait shop, especially here in Minnesota, and you see some winter jigs or crappie jigs, a lot of those crappie jigs are going to be dressed with saddle. It doesn't absorb a ton of water. It does. It's a natural fiber, but it's not going to absorb a ton. It's not going to like take away action. If anything, it's going to add it. I always thought it looked kind of cheap. But there was a method to the madness. I do like the action. The more I got into tying, I thought, well, they're just saddle hackle feathers. You could use some really fancy feathers on this, but some of the stems are really stiff, and so it doesn't work quite as well. I'm going to get that thread built up a little bit on the front of this, because I don't really like how that looks. Again, this 280's bulking up quite a bit. I probably should have even gone with some 70 denier, but I really don't mind having this bulked up a little bit. That's why I didn't end up switching it, because I really don't mind a little bit of this buildup with this thread. Just kind of adds to the profile of the bait. So it'll be the same thing. A little bit of head cement, because that UV will come off. I mean, that UV stuff isn't super duper duper durable, but this head cement is. This head cement is not really going to go water-based head cement. I mean, use whatever head cement you want. And then I'm going to put down a little bit more of that UV resin. So I'll put that, I'll zap it, and I'm going to get this on, and I'm going to try and somehow finagle that bait back in here. We'll see how it looks. All right, so now you see a little dress treble it just adds a little bit of something to your bait. I don't have all my baits like this because sometimes you don't want it. Sometimes even if the fish are really, really, really hammering baits, I'll sometimes even take especially if it's got 3 trebles on it. If it's got 3 trebles on it, I'll take that back treble off, because 3 trebles on a bait like this, to me, is sometimes just pretty excessive. Anyway, dressing up trebles, if you're a big jerk bait, crank bait, lipless crankbait, whatever kind of fisherman you are, hard bait fisherman, dressing up some of your trebles is going to catch you more fish. It will, I promise. So dress your trebles, dress some of your trebles, saddle hackle, cheaper feathers. You don't have to worry about spending all that money. Cheap saddle hackle feathers, strung Chinese or whatever you'd prefer. But match the bait. I could have added some yellow. I just went with pink. I don't know why. But yeah, dress your trebles, catch more fish. Junior's Fishing Company. Like and subscribe. Drop some comments below. We'll see you in the next one.